Hi, time for the edition of Simply Stated. I'm on the road today a little bit, so this is the old song by Cassie, P. Diddy's girlfriend, that currently has a series of long series of legal iterations going on with him to try to get a settlement. I can't keep up with it anymore.
Been talking about the way I do what I do. They heard I was good, they wanna see if it's true. They know you're the one I wanna give it to. I can see you want me to.
Okay, so now, notoriously years ago, my ex-husband, not husband, just personal note, actually said he hated Cassie and thought she was a huge, he called her a slut and hater. I don't know what else to tell you about it. There's some people who really hate me for saying that, but I think you need to know the truth about what some people actually think of her. Unfortunately, she falls into the category of people that have been publicly able to name their situations with either him or some of the other, like, for example, Ashanti has been working on trying to get herself a settlement against J-Lo, but then there's been issues with the truthfulness of Ashanti's allegations and what she actually may be entitled to. And then there's been a huge list of people, myself included, who were actually labor trafficked by, whether it's J-Lo or, we could go through a long list of people I've already named that were tied to Endeavor WME, basically. And believe me, we're going somewhere with this today because I'm going to talk about the LA fires. The biggest issue there is that those of us who actually were wrongfully trafficked, we have a right to say we were trafficked and are owed money for work, and that we have a right to look for felony charges and can't afford to get anything. Cassie doesn't fall into that category. And so what you need to understand about what my ex-husband's statement on her is that she, for whatever reason, has the ability to do that, which means she is not living in the same category of life or human existence that the rest of us are who've actually been trafficked. The other thing I have to note is that a lot of the footage of her being beaten by P. Diddy in that hotel in Chicago. So I was actually beaten in the same hotel in Chicago, and it was by Wilhelm, the man nicknamed Wilhelm, who posed as my father. And I was dragged around, and he bizarrely was wearing a towel at the time, and they used the footage, and they said they were going to use it again later for P. Diddy, and something he was going to do. So I actually would unfortunately be someone who might say that it's possible that Cassie, either they're taking a whole bunch of women to that hotel and beating them, or it's highly possible that Cassie was never actually beaten by him. The whole thing was just Photoshop, because I was younger at the time and would have had the same physique as her at the time. So it just would have been another bizarre event where I got beat up and somebody else was looking for a paycheck after Photoshopping it, which is completely weird. But that's something that's gone on repeatedly with Endeavor, WE, and Booz Allen Hamilton. Now, something I need to tell you about that's really important is that fairly recently, the Department of Justice actually announced that they won their lawsuit against Booz Allen Hamilton. It's a small one for $15 million. They're going to get $15 million out of Booz Allen Hamilton finally for their use of AI technologies and what is essentially relating to the way that Booz Allen has fished for some really nasty criminals from the Russian KGB and also the Chinese CCP, and then whatever's been going on, because there's been a whole lot of gambling and weird events related to the casinos too as well, where some casinos are losing money and some casinos are making money, and we'll talk about more of that later. But it's all tied up in this bizarre Russian FSB stuff that Booz Allen Hamilton has been covering up, and unfortunately also as part of Christopher Wray being asked to leave the FBI. And remember that Christopher Wray actually is invested in Booz Allen Hamilton, that's his company and where he's actually worked. So, whether he's at the FBI or not, he's still part of Booz Allen Hamilton. So you could look at a lot of the proceedings and questioning of him as a part of getting that settlement done for the Department of Justice, which is essentially a way of recouping costs to the U.S. government for all the phishing and phishing, because people are making reports and Booz Allen Hamilton is just going in and erasing everything. I can't get a report through on the fact that I've been raped or beaten or been branded again or anything else because they're phishing and phishing this stuff. And, and they've covered up some behaviors of a really nasty serial rapist who assaults people up here in Michigan even. So, thankfully that's happened. So that's something that's really notable and worth being happy about. What's not fun to be happy about at all as the recent fires in Los Angeles. So unfortunately, because of my experiences, like, I'm just really glad that I didn't know this one was specifically coming, because there were so many that I tried to stop and report on when I was living in the DC area, and even going back to events I knew about as a kid, that I couldn't like stop. So it's just that horrible feeling of like trying to, prevent something and you really can't. So what can you do? So here I am making this show and like occasionally singing for people and stuff like that. That's fun. And trying to uplift their spirits a little bit. But as far as the LA fires go, I mean, this is obviously, there's already been some stories out about investigations into arson, that one arsonist has already been found. Unfortunately, Governor Gavin Newsom is being asked to resign over the fires. I haven't even checked today to see if he's officially resigned or what's going to happen with that. I wouldn't even try to ask him to, because of the ridiculousness of the situation in California. And then the LA Mayor Karen Bass is also being criticized by Hollywood celebrities for her response and for having been on a trip to Ghana at the time. Now, here's the thing. So she was in Ghana at the time of the fires. How does that make this her fault? Because I'm just not willing to listen to any of it on budgets or preparedness or anything else. And the reason I say that is because, the man I didn't name, Kendrick, said a long time ago that he set fires all over the place. He says them in Iowa. I was in one as a kid because of him collecting insurance money for Endeavor WME and getting it launched and for his business. And so what you really need to understand, and I want you to get like laser tight focused on this, is that this fire is essentially about getting money together for the Hollywood industry for the Academy Awards. That's why it happened. Now, did anyone mean for it to get this out of control? I have no idea. What I do know is that all of the celebrities who supposedly lost their homes are all wealthy. They all have multiple homes. They're millionaires or billionaires. And they all have massive insurance policies, which they're going to try to collect on. Now, what was the problem in Hawaii? The problem in Hawaii was that there was a huge land grab. And that there were a number of people who also are part of a WWE there who had properties, and they wanted to buy more property. What's an issue in LA? Buying more property. What would these people like to do? Buy more property. And that means the displacement of, at least 15 lives lost. And that means the displacement of thousands of people at this point from their homes just burned to ground, with reporters actually reporting back that it looks like a bombing and not just an actual fire. And that's been a consistent issue with what the supposed wildfires in California, that the that the government of California is really dealing with plain old arson and terrorist attacks there, and people who are crazy and will burn anything and everything down for insurance money. And that's part of how Endeavor W was founded, that Kendrick founded it on insurance fraud and fires. And so I don't have any sympathy for the Hollywood celebrities. Not even Jennifer Garner coming out and crying makes me feel sorry for any of them. I have 100% sympathy for the people who that was their only home or place to live. They were in a rental apartment. Their way of life as far as how to survive has been displaced or ruined. I mean, I saw the story of one woman who was a doctor and her children were displaced. So that means that critical life-saving operations, as far as just basic medical treatments, at least from her, are being interrupted at this point. It means people being displaced from their homes and having to look for shelter or motels or hotels to stay in. It means people having to just restart their lives over, because that was really their only home and place to live, and those were their only possessions, and they don't have money to just bounce off to someplace else to live. They don't have multiple homes and massive insurance policies, and there really needs to be a serious consideration to whether or not some of these people are even going to be allowed to have, to collect on their insurance policies. Because the millionaires, the supposed Hollywood A-list that's so incensed over it all or wants to pretend like they care about it, they have no business talking about any of it with the amount of money and resources they have. And the fact that the majority of them are planning to collect on those insurance policies, or worse, make a land grab there. And I know the local authorities, you have come forward already in LA and said, they're not going to put up with theft. They're not going to put up with the labor trafficking, people who have young children or adolescents need to be careful that this isn't a situation where they get labor trafficked. And, the general theft of people's possessions as well. And just, on top of the loss of having been, and the trauma of having to deal with a fire, there's no excuse for any of it. And that's why I hate the company. And I just am waiting for the U.S. government to finally move on them, because it is Booz Allen Hamilton's fault that they've been able to get away with so much and this has even happened. I mean, and how do you even tie that into the situation with Christopher Wray and the FBI, because he's supposed to be on a farewell tour? And I think it's also notable to understand, as far as the U.S. goes in the presidency at this point, because Kamala Harris has gone back to using the title of vice president, she's basically doing the practical job of the presidency and then also doing the job as the vice president. And then Joe Biden has gone back to using the term President Biden, and he's doing like this farewell tour, but it's pretty obvious for everyone that the job of president is actually being done by Kamala Harris. So she's doing like 2 jobs right now. And I'm not sure that I would say anything about either of them in that situation, because when you look at the fact that it is this Department of Justice that has been able to get the settlement, that's a huge win for Kamala Harris, even as she leaves the job. And, and she did certify President-elect Trump to go ahead and, be confirmed as president. So, I think she needs to be commended at this time. I'm not saying this as a member of the Democratic Party, because I've left politics behind. I'm really looking at policy, and I'm concerned about, the wins and the traction on the issue of labor trafficking in the U.S. That's what I'm really concerned about. And, I want to also say something. Gavin Newsom put in a lot of time trying to work on mental health issues and combating some of these issues that really are being brought forward by Endeavor WME and some of their clients. And he really did take them on at a time. Nobody else really put the connection together that something needed to be said about Jada Pinkett's behavior and outbursts. And he moved forward with legislation on mental health issues that would actually have addressed her behavior. And she did calm down. So, I don't think it's fair to dump on Gavin Newsom. And it's important to understand, as far as, President-elect Donald Trump goes, that's a guy who had a really hard, long road with Endeavor and abuse from them, from a Russian and Chinese CCP. Like, it's Russian KGB and Chinese CCP people banded together. Unfortunately, YG Entertainment has bought into it and gotten some control over it. So when I refer to the company, I'm talking about that entire faction that's Endeavor WME, not YG. I wouldn't want any of the people YG to think I was like bashing on them, but I also know they really wouldn't care because they know about my situation. So the main point here is that, he's got this long history of being threatened and terrorized by them, and then, literally been shot on his way to the presidency this past year. And there's nothing to really say beyond that. When I listen to Donald Trump talk about the government, how it actually works, I don't feel like he actually totally understands how it actually works. I think he means well. I think he means for the U.S. to have a strong economy, and I think he means to actually solve problems. But you also need to know something about him, which is he never had any problem setting up some of these people that attacked the Capitol to then go to prison. Like, Freddie Klein was one of his appointees, and he's not going to try to clear any of these people because he knows what it was about. He knows about the situation with Endeavor because he's lived through it himself. So, never forget that in any of these conversations. And his now blaming Gavin Newsom, I think, is just, he's just playing pure politics on that because he doesn't really know what to say. And what I want to go back to is the concerns over Karen Bass being on a trip. So one thing I'll say about Luther College is we had a lot of people there from Ghana. And the people from Ghana oftentimes were going to the sciences, and a lot of them became doctors and scientists and even advanced sciences if they could here in the U.S., or, went back home to do it. And they did not appreciate the behaviors in Endeavor at the school. And so the fact that she has a strong relationship with Ghana means that she's probably far more into the intel of the situation and what it's really about than she's ever going to be able to say or feel comfortable saying in a news media interview. And to see her being badgered by someone who I undoubtedly believe was being paid off by Endeavor, that's sad. That's a really hard thing to see, because what is she going to do but say no comment? And I'm saying this as somebody who has a full certification in public relations from UVA, trained by some of the best minds in the country. And, I would do no comment too if I was mayor, because what's she going to say? She's a mayor of a city with a bunch of terrorists and people who are crazy and burn down their own homes for money for the Academy Awards so that they can collect on insurance policies. And if they snag your cute dog or your cute cat or your cute kid in the process, well, that's just a bonus for them. Because that's the reality of the situation. It's a horrible situation. It's sad. And, I put out a note on Friday on my Facebook page to express my condolences for the good people there who've had to leave their homes and lost something, because I do know some people that have actually lost something in this situation. And I know them personally. I have friends that actually were part of my groups of circles of friends in the DC area I was there for over 19 years, or around 19 years. And they lost something, and to have known people personally, to have them writing on Facebook, yeah, I made it out, I'm okay. That's like everything. That's everything to me, to know that they're all right. And that's also why I have no problem just saying I don't have time for whatever these supposed Hollywood celebrities are saying. Worse, JLo has come forward to say she's going to cancel a bunch of media appearances as if anyone actually wanted to see her out in public anymore anyways. And she's currently planning to do a tour to support the victims of the LA fire. Oh, how disgusting. Because she's coming from the company that set them, and she's literally planning to try to use that as her own PR tour. How much more like out of touch and narcissistic and gross can you become? I mean, it was bad enough with the way she treated me personally, but this is just sick. It's sick. And none of you have any business doing PR tours trying to pretend like you actually care about the people there, because it's obvious if you're a part of that industry and you attend those events that you really don't. And that's the reality of it. And that has been another edition of Simply Stated. Oh, no, wait. No, it's not. Haha. I have something else funny to tell you. This is really funny, actually. The state of Michigan has actually found a way to bring J-Lo into the courtroom. Oh, yes. Because there is a man down, he is in prison near Detroit, Michigan. His name is Cardello Smith. He was an affiliate at one time, a business affiliate of P. Diddy, is I guess the way you would put it. And he actually was violently raped and beaten by P. Diddy. You could say he was assaulted on his genitalia, if that makes more sense to you. And, P. Diddy's in the, anal rape crowd, and very violently beaten and ended up in the prison now in Michigan. And he has a case because P. Diddy is trying to sell a number of his properties without giving him, he's trying to sell them, literally planning to sell them and not actually give him his profits from them. And so as a result, they are actually going to put together some events in the courtroom here. And it looks like it's going to be in Michigan. And J-Lo herself is going to have to actually testify. She's not going to be able to get out of this. And I guarantee you that before we are done, it isn't just going to be P. Diddy sitting in jail waiting for a sentence or, whatever's going to happen next. But I think, we're going to succeed in getting J-Lo put in jail and then in prison eventually too. I think that's what we're going to do. So anyways, this has been an edition of Simply Stated, and I hope you're all having a wonderful day wherever you're at in the world and whatever you're doing. Thank you.